Bienvenidos! My name is Parisa Parnian, and I'm the creator and host of Savage Taste, which is an inclusive pop-up dinner series in Los Angeles. And I'm going to be your host today for Make This Tonight. So on the menu today, we have a Persian Chile Relleno. And to drink, I'm going to make a special lemonade called Rosewater Chia Lemonade. And it's inspired by the circumstances that led me to my trip to Mexico. So let's start with the poblano peppers and get them ready so that we can stuff them. So my twist on this dish is inspired with a fusion of Persian and Mexican flavors. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roast these poblano peppers. I already greased a parchment paper and I'm going to lay these down with this side down. All right, I'm going to get this in the oven and I'll come back and start making the delicious filling. Okay, so while that is getting ready, I'm gonna start my saute and get this delicious filling going. I'm gonna start on medium-high heat, and like any good Persian dish, or probably Mexican dish, you wanna first start by sauteing some delicious onions or garlic. In this case, I'm gonna start with some onions. Get lots of olive oil in here. I'm very generous with my use of oil, by the way. There's nothing better than the smell of sauteing onions and garlic, and so many cultures start their dishes with it. It makes me very happy. And starting to saute the onion. The reason I ended up in Mexico, and I ended up staying there for a couple months, has a lot to do with this funny little story I've got to tell. For 9 years, I had the most amazing rent control apartment in Los Angeles, which was the location of my pop-up dinners, where I converted my garage into an art studio. And as it happens in big cities, the building got sold and the new owners kicked us all out. So I had to make a decision. And I decided to make some lemons out of the lemonade that life was throwing my way and take this opportunity to do some travel and exploration that I've been wanting to do, but really didn't feel like I could uproot myself to do. But since the universe decided it was time for me to let go of that space and start a new chapter in my life, I decided to go to Mexico. And I'd heard a lot about Mexico City. I'd never been, and I had this feeling that the culture, the people, the art, the nightlife, I had a feeling every aspect of that city was going to really rock my world. And let me tell you, Mexico City did not disappoint. So when I got to Mexico City, I was so struck. There were elements of architecture and design, the customs of the folks, the hospitality, the love of food, the love of gathering people around the table, family-style eating. All of these things resonated so much with me and my upbringing in a Persian Iranian household. And as I spent time there, I really started to realize that there was a lot of connection in ways that these two cultures shared similar values and flavors and aesthetics. A lot of the dishes I'm going to make today are inspired by flavors that I felt came together beautifully between the two cultures. All right, so I'm going to continue to brown this. And while it's getting brown, I'm going to start adding some spices to it. I'm going to put in some garlic powder. Okay, turmeric. Really important in a lot of Middle Eastern and South Asian cooking, and always adds a lot of great flavor. I've got some herbs I'm going to add. In this case, dried dill and some chives. And tomato paste. And I'm going to mix this all up now. All right, so this is a really powerful and fantastic gas stove, and I feel like it's cooking at a little bit too intense of a heat, so I'm going to lower the heat a little bit. Just so it's more like a chill sizzle, not such an aggressive sizzle. But if you were here and you could smell this right now, You know what I just realized, and I only realized this because I'm smelling it. The last herb I put in here was actually the tarragon, not chives. They look a lot alike when they're dried, but tarragon is a really specific herb scent and flavor, and it's really magical in this dish. All right, this is almost ready. I'm gonna add some fresh chopped cilantro. This is one of those herbs that the Mexicans and the Persians have in common. I can never get enough herbs. Seriously, I think I use herbs in 85% of my cooking. I mean, why not? It's delicious. It adds this herbaceous zest to your food. It's good for you. I think herbs are underutilized in a lot of cooking these days, and I highly recommend you always keep some dried and fresh herbs handy. Okay, now that the meat part is done, we're gonna add some cooked white rice. I personally like to use basmati because that's how we roll in Persian cooking. And this is something that's really key in Iranian stuffing, whether it's for stuffed grape leaves or bell peppers. It's yellow split peas that have already been cooked. Oh, I have one more spice that I need to add actually. It's hiding over here. Cumin, which is another one of those spices that both cultures love to use. Oh my gosh, the smells here. The stuffing is ready. I'm gonna turn off the heat and let it cool for a minute while I get to the other steps of making this incredible fusion of Persian and Mexican flavors. There's gonna be this delicious sauce I'm gonna make that it's gonna simmer in. It's gonna bring everything together. Welcome back to Make This Tonight. I am making my Persian twist on a Mexican Chile Relleno. And we've already gotten the stuffing ready, and now it's time to make the beautiful sauce that these stuffed peppers are gonna simmer in. So I'm gonna turn my frying pan on again. And this time I'm gonna start it on like a medium. And I'm gonna use the same pan that I made the stuffing in because it's got some yummy bits in there that are gonna taste really good when it's mixed with the sauces. First thing I'm gonna do is take the rest of that onion that I had chopped up and I'm gonna saute it with some more olive oil. Okay, so in both Mexican and Persian cooking, there are these kind of simmery red sauces. The difference is in Mexican cuisine, the red sauce is usually made with a lot of chili. It's a lot of red chili or different kinds of chili that create the redness. In Persian cooking, it's really tomato-based red sauce. So what I'm gonna do here is do a marriage of both cultures by creating a red sauce that's both tangy and savory, has a little bit of sweetness in it because of cinnamon, which is a very Mediterranean, Middle Eastern kind of flavor profile to put in a sauce, and some unexpected citrus and acid flavors from vinegar. The result combined with the peppers is going to be tangy but earthy all at the same time. Now that this is sauteing, I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients for this sauce. I'm going to put in some more tomato paste. Persians use a lot of tomato paste in their cooking. I watched my mom go through lots of cans of it when I was growing up. Spread that out. And start putting some spice layers in here. Cumin again. Garlic powder. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but I like to put garlic powder in everything pretty much. It's so good. Okay, I can already see that it's time to add a little bit of water to this dish because it's starting to stick to the pan. I'm gonna lower my heat a little bit and I'm gonna start putting a little bit of water in here. All right, back to my ingredients. I'm gonna put in some of that cinnamon I mentioned and coriander. Okay, more water. So now I'm gonna put in some apple cider vinegar, which has a sweet and sour kind of flavor to it. And I'm also gonna cut up and squeeze a couple limes. Limes are very much used in Mexican culture and cooking, and with tequila. Actually, I learned something. When I was in Mexico City, it wasn't limes that were served with tequila or mezcal. It was these oranges, these naranjas. And I was expecting lime because in the US, whenever you have tequila, it's usually with a wedge of lime. So it was interesting for me to see that that's not actually what folks in Mexico City do. I'm just paying attention to the heat because I don't want this to be bubbling up so aggressively. It needs to be chill. So I put it on low at this point. And I'm gonna get my juices flowing. Having this opportunity of a lifetime to get out and do some travel has been really essential to my personal growth as a citizen of the world. And I highly recommend for anyone who's has the opportunity to do a little travel to get out there, because especially in today's world, so much of what we learn about other cultures is through media, and media can often give us a really one-sided perspective. So being able to go and actually meet people and break bread with them in their own cultures and be a listener and an observer instead of always being the one doing the talking can really help inform you and enrich your own life. And it's something that I love doing whenever I can. And the friendships and the knowledge I've gained from travel are priceless. So we put some tanginess into this, and I'm gonna put a little dash of salt in here too. All right, we're ready to start the stuffing of the peppers. I love tongs. They're like my favorite thing. I got these kind of claws and these kind of claws. These are my other claws that I like to use. Okay, so I'm gonna put these peppers into the sauce. So, okay, well now we're gonna have some fun and we're gonna stuff these peppers. You know what's interesting is I've noticed that a lot of cultures have their version of stuffed peppers. Chile Relleno literally means stuffed pepper. So Iranians have stuffed grape leaves and stuffed peppers. The stuffed grape leaves are called dolma. And that word is also used for stuffed grape leaves in other cultures as well. I believe in Greek it's called dolmades. But every culture, not all cultures, but so many of them have their version of a stuffed pepper or a stuffed cabbage, stuffed squash. Basically, whatever you can put some good stuff in, you can stuff. Something to note, usually I prefer it when my peppers aren't quite so flat and that they have a little bit more of a concave to them so they have like a bowl feel. But you know, sometimes when you roast your peppers, they do get a little flat. If you roast it a little less, it'll keep its shape more and it'll make the stuffing process go a little bit easier. I'm kind of excited that there's leftovers because this, with a big dollop of yogurt on top, will make a delicious meal on its own as well. I feel like I've done a good job of stuffing these peppers, and now it's time for the last step, which is to garnish it with some crumbled feta cheese. There are so many kinds of feta cheese out there. I have my favorites. I love the Valbresso sheep's milk feta, the French feta. I love Bulgarian feta. I love Danish goat cheese feta. There's so many kinds. And today we're gonna use Bulgarian sheep's milk feta because that's one of my favorites and something I use often for the dishes I serve at the Persian suppers and salons that I do. I'm not being precise. Do you see how I'm just kind of letting it flow? I'm just kind of making sure that every piece has some delicious pieces of feta on it. Okay, so now that I've sprinkled the cheese on top, this is ready to just simmer for a little bit so that all the flavors will meld together. I'm gonna put the lid on top, and I had turned the heat off because I didn't want the liquid to evaporate too quickly while I was stuffing the peppers. But now that it's ready to go, I'm gonna put it back on low and just let it simmer for a little bit. Perfect. If you're interested in cooking this recipe, all you have to do is go to the link you see on the screen and it'll tell you all the details, measurements, time, everything you need so that you can make this tonight. And up next, I'm gonna show you how I made a rosewater lemonade out of the lemons that life threw my way. I don't know if you can smell it, but I can smell what's happening in here with the Chile Relleno. It is insane in here. I can't wait to taste how good it looks in my mouth. Okay, my version of lemonade is totally inspired by my trip to Mexico City and also by a drink that I grew up with in Iran. But I grew up with a specific kind of drink in Iran. There were all these different drinks that were summertime beverages that were made with different kinds of syrups and citruses or different kinds of acid. And they were all called sharbat. And growing up, I thought the English version of sharbat was sherbet. So when I would try to describe the drink to friends, I would say, oh, we drink sherbets. And it was not quite the right translation. But one of the sharbats I grew up drinking, especially when it's hot in the summer, has these black seeds in it. And I always didn't know what that was. I just knew it was really cool to have a drink with seeds in it. And what I found out was that they were chia seeds. And when I was in Mexico City, I saw that a lot of drinks also had chia seeds in it. And so I thought it'd be really cool to make my version of lemonade that brings the two cultures together. So I'm gonna start by putting some fresh squeezed lime juice in here. When it comes to lemonade or limeade, it's really up to you how much tartness and sweetness you want in your drink. I personally like more tart and less sweet, so that's the way I'm making mine. After I put the lime juice in here, I'm gonna make it a little exciting by adding beet juice. So we don't want to go too crazy, so I'm going to start with a little bit, see how it looks, and then I'll add more. Ooh, it's like magic. Look at how beautiful that looks. And you can decide how much you want to put. If I wanted this to be lighter pink, I would have put less of this beet juice in it. But it's like a quick way to make a delicious, colorful beverage with very little effort. Okay, so now we've got lime juice, a little beet juice for color. My secret weapon that I use often is rose water. Okay, Persians love their rose water. We like to put it in desserts, in entrees, in drinks. We like to fill up our bathtub with it and soak in it. If this rose water came in gallons, I would just use it all the time. So rose water is a tricky one. I know some people who didn't grow up with this, when they taste it, it feels too perfumey for them. So I recommend everyone gives it a try, but you're gonna decide if you feel like drinking rose water feels like you're drinking a bottle of perfume, or if it's the most amazing aromatic scent you've ever had in your life. It's up to you. But I love my rose water, so I'm gonna give it a very generous pour. A little more. I'm gonna do another stir. And life isn't always just full of sourness. It also has sweetness in it. So I'm gonna add some simple syrup to give the sweetness that this drink needs. And again, I don't like things too sweet. I'm kind of a tart kind of lady. So I'm gonna keep it a little less sweet, but it's up to you. Go to town. If you don't have an issue with sugar content in your life, do 2 cups, however much you want. Okay, so now that I've got this beautiful color and aroma, I'm gonna add chia seeds. Chia seeds do this thing called blooming. So when you first add the seeds, they're tight and they kind of float. But as you stir and as time passes, they bloom, they kind of expand and get this gelatinous layer on the outside. Okay, so I'm gonna keep mixing this, and sometimes the chia seeds are clumpy, and if that's the case, you can use a whisk to break them apart. But my chile rellenos are calling my name, so I'm gonna take a minute and go over and plate myself some. I'm super excited. Are you ready to see this? Oh! It is sizzling. I'm gonna turn this off. I mean, look at that. Don't you want that in your mouth? I do. Which one do I want to try? All right, I'm gonna try this one. I'm gonna try it from this angle. Might be easier. Yes. Okay, and I'm gonna pour some of the sauce over it. put some of this yummy sauce on top. Yum. This is so beautiful. I can't wait to dive into this. Okay, I'm gonna go back and pour myself a glass of the chia lemonade as soon as I finish fixing the clumpiness. This happens sometimes, it's not a big deal. All you need to do is get a whisk out and finish it with a whisk. So I'm gonna whisk it a little bit, get that nice consistent flow happening. That's nice, that's much better. I'm gonna pour in some of my drink. Top it off with some delicious mint, which is another herb that both cultures use a lot of. I'm so excited to try this. Are you ready? Oh. Okay, no one said this is gonna be a fancy plated dish. This is all about messy, gooey deliciousness, but that's how life is, right? It's in the chaos and the mess that all the beauty happens. This is so good. I really taste both the flavors and spirit of Mexico and my homeland of Iran in this one dish. If you want to be able to make this yourself, you totally can. The entire recipe is available on the link you see on the screen. All of this you can make easily at home. And actually, I hope you make this tonight. And thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.